would be very few black families at the very top of society, because 600,000 is not going to get you up into the 1% or anything like that.
And by the way, as a side note, the Latino wealth is very similar to black wealth, right? Like
it's almost identical.
So this.
Okay. All right. So why is the Indian guy bringing up the Latino wealth?
We know why.
We know why.
I don't know why. We know why.
Why wouldn't he bring up Indian wealth? Like, why wouldn't he? Like, why wouldn't he?
Well, you didn't know Latinos were picking cotton with us and getting called nigger and getting raped by the slave masters? Oh, you missed that in your history class? You missed them burning down Little Mexico?
Nah, he wasn't doing that.
Go ahead,
but,
go ahead, bud.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like you can see the motivations. Like, this is not even like some real shit where he's like interested in it for himself, unless he thinks he's white or Latino. Like, he probably thinks he's white. But anyways, like this shit with the Latinos. At one point they were. Yeah. This shit with the Latinos, like, why do they keep linking us with the fucking Latinos? Like, I don't have any issue with them, but our situations are completely different. They don't have our history. We don't have their history. Like, why do these people keep acting like everything that happens with black people, everything that the government is like pushed to do for black people has to include Latinos?
Well, I think part of it is they're treating us like they treat white folks when they deal with us, right? So they use the Latinos to try to hold us, to keep us down the same way they use us to try to hold white people down. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what it is. It's like they're trying to create this division, and probably that's just the way I'm talking. Some Latinos will probably be turned off, and this is probably part of their goal. But we just got to be honest. Real.
We got to be honest. We got to break this. This is horrible. You know, because Latinos had their own fight. Do your thing. Have your fight.
Exactly.
We may even help you.
Exactly, but you don't get to piggyback on our fight. And on top of that, I don't care what y'all say, and this doesn't go for some of y'all, because there are three sets of Latinos. There are the Latinos that the border crossed over on them from Mexico, who have been here since the early 1900s and have always been here. And a lot of them is white Latinos, right? So we got that group, and then we got the new group. Yes. Then we got the newer Latinos, which are the ones that came in the the mid 70s into the 80s and have been here. So some of them are just barely getting bones in the ground, and most of them ain't even got bones in the ground yet here. So you can't compare me with a group who did not build this country, who got here 30 years ago. Our wealth should not match. They literally just got here.
I remember, for example, when the ex-Attorney General, Mr. Robert Kennedy, said that it was conceivable that in 40 years in America we might have a Negro president. And that sounded like a very emancipated statement, I suppose, to white people. They were not in Harlem when this statement was first heard, and did not hear, and possibly will never hear, the laughter and the bitterness and the scorn with which the statement was greeted. From the point of view of the man in the Harlem barbershop, Bobby Kennedy only got here yesterday. And now he's already on his way to the presidency. We've been here for 400 years, and now he tells us that maybe in 40 years, if you're good, we may let you become president.
Just think about it. Like, imagine you've been working at your job for 20 years, and then somebody comes in tomorrow and people start talking about how y'all should be getting paid the same. You would burn that fucking place down. Like, I'm supposed to get paid as much as a 19-year-old intern? Are you fucking serious?
She ain't lying.
Like, you be
Real
looking
shit.
at everybody crazy. So why are you comparing us to people who just got here, who don't have our same struggle? Even if these groups are poor, they are poor because of the conditions that were laid on them in their own country. We built the
Speak on
richest
it.
country in the world. There is no reason we should be at the bottom of it. Even right now, how we have 50% of the homeless in this country are Black people. We are only 13% of the population. Y'all figure that the fuck out. Like, and this is some after slavery shit. When we got out of slavery, we didn't have nowhere to go. Like, this is the same kind of shit. We never recovered. Recovered. There's a few boule Negroes who were able to grab a little bit of something when stuff was going on and they were in the right place at the right time. But a lot of people lost their shit because y'all motherfuckers used to go in people's towns and burn their shit down. And if you don't believe me, look up Red Summer of 1919. I need you to read Sundown Towns. I need you to read Buried in Bitter Waters. They do have a book called Red Summer. Like, you need to start reading all this stuff. Go sit down and read some stuff about your ancestors. Your ancestors used to fucking rape and pillage our shit. They were Al Qaeda for us. Y'all was some white domestic terrorists, 100%. So for your descendants now to be telling us, oh, we shouldn't have to give you anything. If it would have happened after slavery, listen, y'all can read this book called My Face is Black is True, which is about Callie House, who is the original reparationist. Shortly after slavery, she's Queen Mother, right? Yes, like not too long after, she was trying to get pensions for the formerly enslaved. They did not want to pay them even then. They sat around and they said that they put like, oh yeah, they didn't want to even pay it then. They were like, oh, well, it's been such amount of years and it's over now, so there's no reason to pay. So the same arguments that you guys are making now, white racists were making in the 1800s. Y'all are no different. Your thought process is no different. That's why you should read history. Maybe if you would read history, you would realize how racist the shit that y'all say is, because you would see that like it's the same argument. Yes, well, it's their history too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, y'all
our
need to take
history
some
here
time.
is our interaction with them. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So the thing about it is we have to know about you. We are forced to know about you. Our lives depend on us knowing you, knowing your history, how you move, knowing how to code switch and be in your areas and be around you. Like, we have to be aware anytime we're around you. You guys know nothing about us, but always talk about us like you do. Whew, sorry, I'm done. Go ahead, y'all. I'm irritated with these people. I hate that. Like, don't compare me to people who literally got here after the Cosby Show, and don't talk to me when you don't even have bones buried here. And I know people get all up in their feelings, but my family has been here for generations. Like, so I don't want to hear shit when you literally got here like around the time I was born, or your people got here around the time I was born. Like, get the fuck on, for real. So if you're going to come here, then why don't you fight with us? But you don't get to use our fight and be like, well, we deserve this too. Why the fuck do you? Especially because a lot of y'all are racist in your own fucking country. So remember, Mayate, like every other group has a word for nigger in their language. Black folks ain't got no nigger words for nobody. We don't have any words. We like the words that you hear are adopted from other groups. We have never created a word for other groups to be disparaging of them, but to denigrate them. But all of y'all got a word for nigger, all of y'all. So we need to start having real conversations. And if, like I said, if y'all want to be like, let's all work together, that's one thing, but you don't get to be like, oh, well, I'm brown and I'm oppressed and we're the same. No, we're not the same, because our ancestors came here in slave ships or were enslaved on this continent. You chose to move to a racist country and you have to deal with that. We did not choose to come here. You chose to come to a racist country. This country was built on theft, rape, and fucking free labor. You know where you came. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry, y'all. Let's keep moving.
It's all right.
But I want to talk about. I think what cousin Mud was alluding to when he was talking about the Latinos, and I want to talk about Brown Tucker Carlson Jr. It's a few of them. There's a few Indian Brown. It's Sagar. It's this dude. Know what I mean? Brown Tucker Carlson Jr.'s and shit. Like, why are you, bro? You Indian, like, or you Middle Eastern, and yet you are using the argument of like black people shouldn't get this because Latinos live like this too. But first of all, you already know Sam just destroyed your whole shit, so I don't even want to hear that shit. But second of all, why you ain't talking about your people in this country? Like in this country, why you ain't talking about your family? How you got here? Because there is a group of you people that's here. Like you feel me? Like it's more than 100,000, probably 1 million of people that's here. They have a certain wealth position. We can get the data on that.
Here with
why you? Yeah, they bring people with them. Why you're not talking about the wealth gap between me and your people? Fucking Ziggy, whatever. I don't know his name. I call him Ziggy. You know Ziggy, like Ziggy Dicky. I call him like, all right, Ziggy.
I think it's Zed. It's
Ziggy.
Z-A-I-D.
Z-A-I-D. All right. MG, you know I'm gonna call nigga Ziggy. You know I don't give a fuck. I'm all right.
I don't give a fuck either.
I'm calling.
He got a problem with us. He knows where to find us. All great.
Hey, yeah, nah, he's saying it like that. I ain't saying it like that, but I'm gonna call that motherfucker Ziggy because I don't give a fuck. Because he talking some bullshit to us. How you gonna come over here and really talk about some real talk? Like this is the wealth disparity between the blacks and Latinos. First of all, just see that, and that's that people of color shit. That's the thing about it is that we have no. I think I can speak for all of us. I can't really speak for all of us. So I'm off the hook, but I think I can speak to the sentiment of all of us when we say we really have no issues with no other groups of people. We really, we'll really take time to read about your oppression and your pain and shit like that. Like. We really know what the fuck happened to motherfucking Chinese people with Japan. If I'm like Japanese,
real talk.
We know about all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
We live in America. We know about how the Indian Brahmin, you feel me, the Brahmin caste, how we know all about this shit. You feel me? Like we know about shit in Europe, how the Irish got treated like shit by the. You feel me? We know about all this shit. Then you come here and you like, nigga, you don't know about us, and you here, and like, what the fuck is that shit? So. I just felt that it was funny as hell. He ain't bring up his wealth gap. He ain't bring up, first of all, he ain't state his lineage and how his specific group of people compared to the black people. And I want him to make that argument. I wanted to make his argument because I knew eventually it's going to turn to a right wing argument.
That's why they don't want to do wealth redistribution because they're a little bit higher up in the money.
You know that?
So remember, when we look at their median wealth, like their shit is like 150. So what is theirs at the top? Remember, that's the median, right? So wealth redistribution might actually jumble up some of their money, and maybe that's why they ain't happy. But no disrespect, but you can always go back and build your home country.
Absolutely.
I think Matt Brunig should.
If you don't want them to steal your money, I don't want anybody to feel like thinking their money's stolen. So feel free to take your money and run.
Yeah,
I think Matt Brunig should bring that heat to them. Like, yo, y'all got more wealth on. Y'all got higher incomes on average than white people. Y'all need to get y'all doing some bullshit. This ain't right. Well, he ain't talking to him like that. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and talk about how they're practicing class in Silicon Valley. Practicing caste in Silicon Valley and blocking out other Indians who come from lower castes from getting jobs. So if they're doing that to their own people, what do you think they're doing to our black asses?
And not to mention in Silicon Valley, there's plenty of there's over 150,000 non-Americans holding jobs, while black homelessness and black joblessness is at epic numbers, right?
Because they don't care about us, and then they're like, "Oh, well, you don't have the skills." Even when we do have the skills, they're not hiring us. They only hire a certain type of good Negro.
And even then, that good Negro is on eggshells, right? Because that shit can be snatched out from under them in the blink of an eye, right?
Real talk, and that should be stressing them out and shit.
Absolutely. Microaggressions all day long, and nobody really gives a shit because they don't have to, because we're broke. What are we gonna do? We take the job, or somebody else will get it if we get the opportunity.
That's real talk. That reminds me of that time when we were talking. Who was it that we were grilling when he was like, "Oh, now if you do a little racism at work, you might lose your job."
Oh, it's Matt Taibbi.
It makes me think of that. Like, if you grab a little ass at work, it's a problem now. Now you just might lose your job. Like a little grab ass.
Coming wearing a sombrero, you might get in a little trouble. Exactly. All right, let me get in on this now. Yeah. Can't even do karaoke in the office. All right, so one of the I guess most everybody pretty much covered this point of view where we're constantly compared to other groups, even though we're unique. But the worst part about it is that they're trying to dishonestly and deviously push the oppression of others on another oppressed group, meaning us. So we're not only responsible for our own oppression, we're responsible for the repression of others. Meanwhile, they're not saying it. Notice they're not saying anything about the white oppressor, right? It's just all this the national oppression, right? Because there's a lot of people at a lot of the top of the food chain who have joined into this oppression, Zed. So now our oppression is a group project, right? And the left is taking their role. They're taking on this role with zeal, with absolute zeal, right? So stop trying to make us equivocate us with the oppressor, and not stop making other people's oppression our responsibility. They don't do this to anybody. We say this every show, but every recording we say this. No other group they never tell the Jews, what about the Native Americans, right? The Holocaust survivors, right? Because some people hear the word Jews and think I'm saying something negative. No, that's how they address themselves. So I'll say Jewish people just to keep it clear, right? Nobody ever tells Jewish people, Jewish Holocaust survivors, that Jewish Holocaust survivors, you are now responsible for taking care of the Japanese, or you're responsible for Native Americans. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Sam.
I was gonna say, how many of them was on Twitter when Obama earmarked that 12 million for them or something like that? Mm-hmm. How many of them was in Jewish people's DMs telling them you don't deserve that money, get that shit back?
Mm-hmm. Or the Asian community getting
two economic empowerment acts. They got one under Trump, and
Trump.
Under Obama. They got two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look it up, people. Mm-hmm. Asians got two economic empowerment acts. So when they say that they don't ask for nothing from the government and this and that, everybody goes to the government with their hands out, except for blacks and poor whites. Mm-hmm. Everybody else goes to the government with their hands out. Those are the only two groups who don't.
Absolutely.
And you notice how they don't say, you never hear anyone say anything about Asians not getting something because of poor whites. You never hear no shit like that.
Yep.
Ever.
Never ever. Go on. We can go.
But that is true. I have never heard that. Could you imagine if when they gave the Japanese their money, if they pulled all white people, like, should we give the Japanese this money from when we intern them? They would have been like, no, of course
they never do that. They'll never do that.
They're adults now. They don't need that money.
And you see that, and then we get that reason.
We calling out all this shit.
Yeah. All right. I'm about to